Hello, guys. This is the Perpetuating Party of Patriots back at again with yet another top 10 list. And this one is going to be focusing on my second favorite franchise involving something blue, Mega Man. Now, I think I may have told you guys this before, but I will say it again. I love the Mega Man series. I love the Robot Masters, the 8-bit chiptune music, 16-bit music. The gameplay is usually very solid, except for this one. And pretty much every franchise in the Mega Man series, and yes, there is more than one, are usually consistently really good. And I'm going to make a top 10 list telling you guys all of my favorite ones. Now, this will not be a one game per franchise rule because I don't think there are even 10 Mega Man series, but also because this would be an honest way of looking at it. But to kick this list off, let me show you guys my 10th favorite Mega Man game. Well, this is a pretty controversial game to put at only the number 10 spot. Yep, Mega Man X4 is my 10th favorite game in the series. Now, let me just say this. The graphics in this game look very nice, especially for the X series' main transition into the PlayStation 1 console. Another thing I like is that you can actually select X and Zero right off the bat, which is very cool. I'd personally recommend playing as X more because Zero, while it is fun to play as him, it is a bit more challenging, but mainly because some of the stages do feel a bit more like they're made for X rather than Zero. But yeah, they're both really fun to play as. Now, that's not the only reason this is number 10. What makes it one of my favorite games is the gameplay is just really freaking smooth, honestly. Yeah, the Mega Man X series is probably one of the most consistent Mega Man franchises in the series, and this game carries over that stuff. Now, this is probably my favorite of the PlayStation trilogy, and first let me explain why neither X5 or X6 are going to make it on this list. First, the explanation for X5. Now, the one thing I really did not like about X5, personally, is that, well, it was mostly a solid game, up until the ending part, where it is very RNG heavy in terms of how to beat the game. And yeah, it's practically random if you're gonna win or not. Now, my reason for X6. While I do think X6 is admittedly very overhated by the community, one thing that I wasn't a huge fan of is, well, certain aspects of the level design, mainly the weapon assistant, whatever the robot's name was, mainly because of that fucking statue in the back, having those freaking laser things just aim on you, and also, there was one segment I had a really hard time with, and that was jumping from one segment to another, trying to jump across a gap, and also, it is a bit disorienting trying to go downwards, and you have to be prepared for any immediate danger that might come. I'm just saying, it's hard to know, but other than that, X5 and X6 are pretty good, but X4 is my favorite, mainly because it has pretty much everything that I want and nothing that I don't want. Also, the voice acting is pretty entertaining, but mainly for the wrong reasons. But anyway, let's go on to number 9. Here's one that I actually think should get more love, or I do think gets overlooked way too much, at least in my opinion. Mega Man 6. The 6th entry, or the last entry in the NES hexology, did this one live up to the other ones? Mostly, I would say. Now, let's talk about one of the game's strongest assets, the levels. There are a lot of levels that I do really love. My favorites include Centaur Man, which one of my favorite things is when you're in that room where it's half filled with water and half regular ground. It's really cool because the water can actually be used and you have to use it strategically. And also, I really just love water type levels, to be honest. And also, I really liked the Robot Master designs in this one. They looked really cool. Although the plot, while it's not necessarily a bad plot, Wiley could not make his disguises any more weak. But yeah, one cool thing that was introduced is the rush adapters. One of them is the rush punch adapter, which you can use to charge up a punch. And the other one, the jet one, which is my personal favorite one because it lets you fly, and they both do kind of make up for the loss of the rush coil and the rush jet, even though they were kind of declining in the series up to that point. But still, again, one of the main aspects that puts this game on the list for me is its level design. I also remember Plant Man's stage being really cool, and I really love Nightman's music. That is very nice. And there's also Blizzard Man, which is a very fun stage, even though it does have the ice physics. But hey, at least it's not like Iceman with the freaking floating blocks. But yeah, that's all I really have to say about Mega Man 6. Very solid entry in the series, and a pretty good closer to the NES original trilogy. No, not original trilogy, I meant original Siths. But anyway, on to number 8. You guys may have heard of the saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that applies pretty well here. Mega Man X2. Now, before I actually thought about the game itself, let me tell you, I really feel bad for the green biker dude. He got killed in the first entry he appeared in. Very sad indeed. But anyway, jokes aside, let's talk about the game itself. It is very similar to the original Mega Man X, and that is actually not a bad thing, because the game is really well pulled off here. Or they pulled it off really well with the second entry in the series. And in my opinion, I think the level design is really freaking good, honestly. Crap, I might even say it's better than the first one. Emphasis on the might, but yeah, there's not a whole lot to mention about this game, but yeah, another cool thing about it is, yes, they do retain the secret capsules that you get where you get some new X abilities. And this one actually introduces the Shoryuken, when the previous one had the Hadouken. I don't think the Shoryuken one is nearly as damaging as the Hadouken one, but it's still a very cool ability nonetheless. And also, Zero's theme in this game is really good, even though it is a looped one. The Mega Man X series actually does looped songs very well, in my opinion. And also, I really like the X Hunters in this game. Well, the designs are okay, but mainly because of the battles, because not only are they more bosses to fight and are pretty good at that, but they also help you get the pieces of Zero back, so you can rebuild Zero. Even though it doesn't really matter in the end, because he's revived anyway, but still, I think it's a good way of encouraging more exploration, although some of the jumps in this game can be way too hard to pull off, and require a lot of skill. But anyway, let's go on to number 7. The last classic Mega Man game to be released on the 7th generation of consoles. And also the last Mega Man game for a while until 2018 or 2019. Yep, Mega Man 10 makes it on this list. Now, nostalgia may play a bit of a part in the placement of this game on the list, as it is, well, it wasn't necessarily my first Mega Man game. It's the one that I've played the most out of all of them, I believe. And let me just say, this was a great one to sink a lot of time into, because it's a really awesome game. Now, while Mega Man 9 was an amazing game and was really close to making it on this list, I think they added some improvements in 10 to make it better, in my opinion. The first one, you get Proto Man right off the bat. Now, while I don't think adding more playable characters automatically makes the game better, it is very cool. And they also didn't heavily nerf Proto Man in this one too, which I do like. Also, they added Bass in the game as DLC. And This is the first time I've seen bass playable in a game that did not make me want to rip my own balls off. That is a very weird thing to say, but still. Let's talk about one of the best attributes of this game, the level design. To be fair, honest, I love the levels in this game. Some highlights, in my opinion, are Solar Man, Strike Man, Chill Man, Sheet Man had a really interesting level. And yeah, another thing I liked were the weapons, which are really good in this game. Again, some of my favorites are the Striker Ball, even though it can be a bit situational at times. And yeah, I think Sheet Man's weapon was pretty good. Blade Man's weapon was really good too. And another thing I liked, to be honest, were the Wily Castles. Those were pretty fun, honestly, even though they were a bit challenging. I also do like the boss, where you fight this robot that copies abilities from the previous Robot Masters in the series. That's a nice little bit of fan service for the fans of the series. But overall, Mega Man 10 is a really good game in the Classic series, and is also my 7th favorite game in the whole series as a whole. Malachi is very weird when it comes to saying stuff, but anyway, let's move on to NumberSix, which might be controversial. Yep, Mega Man 5 is one of my favorite games in the whole series. But before you leave an angry comment and a dislike, let me explain, please. Honestly, I think Mega Man 5 has some of the best level design in the series, if I'm being honest. While Mega Man 4 was cool, don't get me wrong, one of the things that did kind of drag it down a bit was the level design. It wasn't bad, but it was kind of unmemorable in my opinion. And there were very few stages that I honestly could say were really good, like Pharaoh Man and Rain Man. But this game has a lot of fun levels, honestly. Let's talk about the highlight level of the game, Gravity Man. Yeah, I really like gravity levels in games, like a Cosmic Gadget, I believe, or Space Gadget from Shadow the Hedgehog, a Crazy Gadget from Sonic Adventure 2, and Gravity Man stage from Mega Man 5. Yeah, I really liked the gravity flip mechanic it has, and climbing down ladders or to get on top of the ladder is really fun. And also there was this one really cool movement I did in my first play session of the stage where I was falling down and then I just very narrowly made it to where I didn't land in spikes. That was really cool in my opinion. And Gravity Man's boss fight, one of the best boss fights in the series in my opinion. It's very satisfying to time your blast to hit the Gravity Man at the right spot. But Gravity Man is not the only good stage in the game. We also have Starman, which I also have a love for low gravity stages. For example, one of the stages that I love that has low gravity in games is Cosmic Wall from Sonic Adventure 2. And this game, in this stage, in my opinion, might even be better than that one. I don't know, there was just something about the low gravity gimmick that I loved. And also, this was the first Robot Master I beat in the game. And Wave Man, I think is his name too. He has a really fun stage with the jet ski and the giant octopus boss and the bubbles. That was really cool. And I know a lot of people knock the Robot Master weapons, but some of them I actually really like. Like, for example, the Gravity Hold, which is just really funny, just using it and then seeing all the tiny enemies just float off into the void of space. That was really cool. But some of them can go eat a dick, like the rock weapon. Yeah, that one's really bad. And another thing I really liked is the charge shot. They boosted the power of that to infinity, practically. Not only is it bigger, but it's also more powerful. And one thing that I do like that to balance it out was, unlike Mega Man 4, you do not keep your charge shot if you get hit, which I do think is a good move on Capcom's part, to make it where the weapon isn't too OP. And yeah, it's interesting to see Proto Man as the villain. But yeah, plot twist, he's not actually the villain. But yeah, Mega Man 5 is another underrated entry in the series that I think gets a bit too much shit. But anyway, let's move on to NumberFive. That's not what number means, but still. Well, what do you know? Yet another X game on this series, in this top 10. And my personal second favorite game in the series, Megaman X3. Now, the main reason why X3 is so high on the list is it was honestly a lot more satisfying to play than X2. And also, another cool thing they added was Zero. Even though he was limited, he was extremely fun to play as in this game. In my opinion, more fun to play as than he was in X4. And the level design is very nice as well. And another thing I do like is the soundtrack. Well, for both of them, actually. The SNES version of the soundtrack is, in my opinion, a bit better. I do like the more, SNES sound it has to it. And the PlayStation and Saturn soundtracks did sound pretty good too, but again, I guess I'm a bit more biased for the SNES sound chip. I don't know, that's probably just me. And again, there are some really fun levels in this game. And another thing that I found interesting was actually on the ending part. Mainly where they said that, well, it was a mistranslation, but they said that the X and Zero were going to battle, which they didn't in this game, but again, that was just a bad translation. But yeah, X3 is a really good game, and well, actually, in my opinion, the levels aren't nearly as fun as they are in X2. It was a lot more fun to play, honestly, which is why it's on this list. But again, this is mainly a favorites list. But anyway, let's just move on to number 4 before I start rambling. Okay, before we actually start talking about this game, just look at the cover. Mega Man is a really dirty fighter. Why does he gotta shoot Sparkman in the dick like that? And Top Man is just as useless as his weapon is. But anyway, before I start nitpicking the cover, let's talk about Mega Man 3 by itself. While the levels weren't nearly as fun as in the second game, this game had a lot of fun levels, and also it added some stuff that was much appreciated in my opinion. First one is the slide. It is very fun to slide left and right, honestly. It was, especially when you're in an area and you just move left and right like a madman, or I don't know why I said madman, but yeah, it's just really fun to slide left and right. Another thing that I liked that they introduced was Rush. Not only is he a cool robot dog, but a lot of his stuff was really useful, like Rush Coil, for example, to help you reach the higher places, and in my opinion, the best use of the Rush Jet to date. Mainly because it actually lets you move where you want to go with it, which I think makes it a lot more handy. And the Rush Submarine also helped a lot too. Now let's talk about the levels. To be quite fair, I love the levels in this game. Some highlights for me were Snake Man, not only because it was the whole level made of snakes, but it was also just a really fun stage to go through. And surprisingly, Top Man's stage, while I did shit on him before, his stage wasn't too bad, honestly. And for some reason, I really liked Shadow Man's stage a lot. I don't know, there's just something about it that I liked. And yeah, Gemini Man's stage was really fun too. I really liked this opening segment where it has a night sky background. That one was just really cool to me. This is also in the introduction to Proto Man, who's a jumping, shooting asshole in certain stages. But yeah. One thing that did kind of drag this game down a bit for me was mainly the Doc Robot stages. While I don't necessarily think the stages themselves were hindered much, but oh boy, hope you like having to start at the beginning of the stage if you end up dying. But yeah, Mega Man 3, classic game. Oh crap, I almost forgot to talk about the soundtrack. It's really freaking good. Some songs that are highlights to me are Shadow Man, Top Man, the title theme, obviously. That's one of the most beautiful opening songs I've ever heard in a game ever. And yeah, that's about all my favorites from the soundtrack. But yeah, let's talk about my number 3 pick. The classic Mega Man 2 is my third favorite game in the series. Let's talk a bit about it. Okay, first let me get one minor complaint out of the way. Mega Man feels kind of slippery at points, mainly when it comes to jumping and walking. He does kind of slide a bit. It's not like Sonic Heroes or Shadow the Hedgehog slippery, but yeah, it is kind of slippery, even though I did get used to the slipperiness in all three. But the aspect of this game that was improved from the original, which is a good game too, but the level design was a bit iffy in that game. But the thing that was improved was, well, the level design. The levels are insanely fun in this one. Some of my favorites include Airman Stage, Woodman Stage, also helped by that song. And, who else had some fun stages? Oh yeah, Metal Man. I think Bubble Man had a really fun stage too. And, yeah, and let's talk about the soundtrack. It is very good in this game. Some of my favorites include, well, Woodman. He obviously has the best one in my opinion. Airman Stage, Metal Man Stage, Crash Man Stage. Something about Heat Man was really cool. Wily Stage 1, obviously. Wily Stage 2 is a very underrated track in my opinion. And the boss theme is very fun too. And the weapons are really good too. One of my favorites is probably the Flash Stopper, mainly because it's just really fun just pausing it. Especially on Quickman Stage. That stage was really hard to me. Mainly because of the lasers, but yeah, Mega Man 2, a very classic game, but not my number one. Or even my number 2 for that matter. My number 2, if you're curious, it is Mega Man X is at the number 2 spot. But yeah, Mega Man X1 is, in my opinion, probably my favorite of the X series. And no, it's actually not because of nostalgia. It's actually not that nostalgic to me. But before we get into that whole argument, let's talk about the actual game itself. It is amazing. The gameplay is very smooth, especially for the first Mega Man game on the Super Nintendo, for that matter. And its music. Oh, boy, the music in this one's great. There are so many freaking good songs in this game. I love the Central Highway theme, the Storm Eagle theme, the Spark Mandrill theme, the Sting Chameleon theme, Zero's theme. There's a lot of freaking good themes in this one. And the stages are, of course, really good. And they encourage a lot of exploration. Another thing that I like that I don't usually bring up is forward momentum. There is a lot of really fast moments in this game, and the forward momentum thankfully doesn't just mean holding right and without any skill or thought, because there is a lot of stuff to watch out for in this game, because it is very hard. Well, I mean, it's a Mega Man game, of course it's really hard, but yeah, I think the difficulty is fair enough in this game. And Sigma is, in my opinion, a pretty dark villain. And he is a very cool one. I'd say he's far more dangerous than Dr. Wily ever could be. But, yeah, Sigma is a very cool villain. And I really liked the setup of Mavericks in this game, or the set of Mavericks you get. Chill Penguin is very cool. I do think he's pretty cool. Storm Eagle, he's fairly good, even though his boss fight might be a bit pathetic. And oh boy, there's actually one thing I forgot. If you beat certain character stages in order, certain effects will happen in other stages. Like for example, if you end up beating Chill Penguin's stage, the Flame Mammoth, I believe is his name, stage will be all frozen. Which I do think that is a nice attention to detail. And there's also something that can happen in Spark Mandrill stage where, yeah, it'll flash on and off. The lights will flash on and off constantly, but it'll make the fight with the water thing very easy. But yeah, that's one thing that I like about this game that unfortunately I don't think was brought back in any of the other Ats games. That is some very nice detail, but yeah, Mega Man X1 is a badass fucking game. The levels are great, the controls and gameplay are great, the soundtrack is amazing, the villains are very cool, and it's overall just a very strong note to start off the X series with. But it's not my favorite game in the Mega Man franchise. But before we get on to our number one pick, let me do a kind of lightning round on the honorable mentions for this list. Honorable mention spots go to Mega Man, Mega Man 4, Mega Man 9, Mega Man Battle Network, Mega Man Battle Network 2, Mega Man 0, Mega Man 03, Mega Man Powered Up, and Mega Man X Command Mission. Those are the honorable mentions that I have for today, and this is probably the first list I've actually had those, but anyway, let's move on to my number one favorite game in the Mega Man series. Yeah, I honestly couldn't tell you how much I love Mega Man 7, but I'll do my best to explain why. Now, one thing that not only does the Mega Man series do well, but this game does very well, is exploration. There are a lot of explorative elements in this game. Like, for example, they actually expanded on the Rush adapter from the Mega Man 6 game into this one, but I think they did it even better. This one's called the Super Adapter, which basically combines the punching Rush adapter and the jet Rush adapter into one. And it is incredibly fun to do so. And the music in the game, of course, is great, especially that intro stage theme. I cannot tell you how many times I have listened to that. And there are also some other great ones, like Jumpman, Slashman, Cloudman had a pretty cool one, Freeze Man, also a really good one. Shade Man's theme, really good, and especially the Shade Man alternate one, where it has a remix version of Ghosts and Goblins theme. That is really cool. And also, it brings the Mega Man series, the classic one, very well into the 16-bit era. Also, the Wily boss fight in this game is fairly hard too. And the shop is a really cool addition, in my opinion. I don't know if this was completely the first Mega Man game to bring in the shop feature, but yeah, it is very useful. Overall, though, Mega Man 7 is just the most appealing Mega Man game to me. It has a good level of exploration, the levels are really fun, the music is kick-ass, and overall, it's just my favorite Mega Man game. Anyway, guys, that was my top 10 Mega Man games list. I'm the Perpetuating Party of Patriots, and see you guys in the next video.